This is CEOs You Should Know. I'm Jack Crumley. We are speaking today with Ellis McCue of Territory Foods. Ellis, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So, Territory Foods is a food delivery, I suppose, maybe for lack of a better word, meal prep service, which is a very popular thing right now where people have food delivered to their homes. First of all, is that an accurate description of what Territory Foods is? And B, what is it that you guys are doing specifically?
Absolutely. It's a partially accurate representation. I would say that Territory Foods is a direct-to-consumer fresh food platform. And what we do is we empower healthy eating in the everyday by facilitating small, sustainable changes in our customers' lives. So our mission as a company is to reimagine modern eating. And that can come through a lot of different ways. Obviously, like you talked about, the business format, the way that people get food, the fact that it's delivered directly to the home, to our business model, which is production through a network of over 55 unique independent chefs, caterers, and restaurants, all local to our communities. And then also the customer's perception of health. We really believe that healthy eating should be every bite in every day. And our dream is to make delicious food healthy, not health food that is delicious. So it's those three things that come together and really bring the magic of Territory to life.
I was looking on your website and I saw, things in terms of vegan options and gluten is a major part of the overall, I guess, menu that you're supplying to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a health standards perspective, all of our food is free of gluten, added sugar, dairy, inflammatory oils, and we encourage a lot of biodiversity, e.g. vegetables, so we can really empower our customers to eat very healthfully. But what we really try to do is make the food delicious, so you don't actually know it's free of gluten, sugar, dairy, inflammatory oils, anything like that. We actually have customers who don't know that the food is so clean. We came out of this world of very, very clean paleo eating. So if you're familiar with the paleo movement, it really got started in the 2005 to 2010 timeframe. And it was the first cultural movement around food that was focused on clean. And it was not a diet. It's still not a diet. It's very much about how do you live a full life and eat well while reducing inflammation in your body. So that's where Territory got our start. But as paleo evolved into primal and primal evolved into Whole30 and Whole30 became keto and vegan and the rise of plant-based eating, we really found that our superpower was being able to provide tons of variety across highly specified diets so that as customers were starting to experiment with their health, we never asked them to say, now you're vegan. We never ask our customers to self-identify like that. We say we are a place where you can come in and you can try a lot of different things with us. And no matter what you eat, you're going to love it. You're going to be satisfied and it's going to be food that you love because food is intimate. Food is more than just what you put in your body to fuel your life. It's about love, it's about culture, it's about heritage, and it's about comfort for yourself. And so we believe in creating a world of healthy, bountiful choices, not a world of restriction. So yes, the food is all delicious, all healthy, but we really focus on the delicious first.
And there's a really sort of personalized, localized element to it.
We are the only D2C food company that has a machine learning proprietary algorithm that runs on the back end. And that's a lot of technology mumbo jumbo for a really, really good personalization and recommendation engine. Basically saying, you can tell us information about you, but we can also learn based on your orders, based on what you like, what you don't like, and we can make intelligent suggestions for you that say, based on what we know so far, we think you're going to love this. And that's part of the backbone of our relationship with our customer. We really want to build a long relationship with a customer. We're not a diet company. We don't want you to come to us for, 4 weeks of weight loss eating or something like that. We're trying to help you make sustainable changes in your long-term health, and we believe that food is the foundation to do so. Then on the other side of the house, the other thing that's very, very unique about Territory is that we are the only distributed chef model in this space. What the distributed chef model means is that all of the food is made locally and it's usually not traveling more than 200 miles to reach you. That doesn't sound as revolutionary as it is. I think there's been a lot of new learnings on the food supply chain about how far your food is actually traveling to reach you, especially in 2020 and 2021, where global supply chains are feeling a lot of pain. But Territory's unique model means that not only are you feeding yourself with healthy, delicious food, but you're better for the environment because it's not traveling for a long periods of time and on lots of different types of vessels. And you're really feeding your local economy as well. Because every dollar that you put back into your local food economy supports small businesses, it supports a lot of different jobs, and it really starts to enrich your community in your spending versus spending with a national company that kind of produces out of a food factory in New Jersey or City of Industry, California. Your dollars really just go to those kind of single points and large conglomerates. So we have a really different model, and we're really proud. We also built an incredible chef network that is hyper diverse. So 36% of our chefs are Black, person of color, or Latinx owned businesses, and 42% are women owned businesses against an industry average of 7%. So we are really about changing the way people eat, not just from what they put in their body, but how their dollars flow through the culinary system, and really passionate about building our local economies.
Yeah, so you're partnering with individual chefs and restaurants in different areas, and that is going to reduce the shipping distance, the shipping time, and it
Right.
gives people there's a connection there to the food that they're getting.
Absolutely. And our customers love it. Our customers know the chefs. Sometimes they've been in the restaurants. Sometimes they say, how do I get these things? But it really means something to say, I'm part of a local food community and I'm contributing to that. It's a very intimate relationship that our customers have with our chefs. In like times when we've switched out a chef, people say, where is this chef? I'm looking for them. And it's so powerful because what it means is that the chefs really have buy-in and they have insights to what the customer loves. And that's really where our data serves us two purposes. Obviously, we use it to make a killer recommendation for the customer so that we can help them achieve whatever they're trying to do through healthy eating, whether it's, mitigate blood pressure, lose weight, just kind of stay sane during the global pandemic, which was a large proportion of our customers in 2020. But we also then take that information and we feed it back to our chefs. And we say, based on the 90,000 points of consumer data that we get every single week, we see trends in these health and wellness, spaces. So like a keto or vegan or paleo. We see these culinary trends. So Southeast Asian, Mexican, so on and so forth. And then we see these different protein trends. And especially as the plant-based protein movement has gotten so much bigger in the last 3 years, that's been so valuable because innovation in the kitchen is one of the hardest things that you can do. And by partnering with real chefs and restaurants, we not only act as a place for them to innovate for territory, but also for their restaurants. So we're talking about Founding Farmers, which is a fantastic local restaurant group here in the DC metro area. They actually partnered with us, yes, to be on the territory menu and extend their reach all up and down the East Coast to really help with lateral retail expansion. But they also use us as a testing ground to try out new dishes so they can understand what's going to sell and then bring it to their restaurants. And when you think about the unit economics of a restaurant, it's a very, very fragile economic organism. It's very much dependent on foot traffic. During 2020, that all changed and it became hyper dependent on third-party services like Seamless, DoorDash, and Grubhub, which are not meant to serve restaurants. And so with Territory, we have sought to become a really consistent partner to help them with R&D, to provide stability to their business, and to help them extend their reach.
Yeah, margins are already razor thin, and then the idea too, if you're concerned about sustainability and cutting down on waste, if you can use the data that you've collected, and so you have an idea of what people want, as opposed to just shipping out crates of fettuccine Alfredo all the time, you're cutting down on waste also.
That's exactly right. We actually operate in a zero food waste environment, which is a very, very powerful thing. That's because of the way that we're using machine learning to do forecasting. And then it's also because we only produce to demand. We do not produce overages. And if you think about where the waste lives in the food supply chain, it's across so many different vectors. And as we've built Territory, we've said throughout the value chain, how do we make sure that we're providing the tightest sustainable operation in that space so that we don't have a lot of waste? Because waste is bad for our business. It's terrible for restaurants. They're already working, as you said, on razor thin margins. And if we can help them optimize sourcing and labor and double or triple utilize their hard assets, like their leases and their build outs, we've done something fundamentally great for the culinary economy and helped that business model evolve in a really positive way. And I think after 2020 and 2021, we're all looking for ways to help the culinary economy evolve.
Ellis, you just outlined a lot of detail-oriented information with the business model itself. It doesn't necessarily sound like you're a chef per se, but
Not a chef, no.
I don't mean to make that assumption. How did you come into Territory Foods?
Well, I came in in a really interesting way. I just sort of found territory. It's quite serendipitous. Transparently, I found territory on LinkedIn. So this is it's not a ringing endorsement for LinkedIn, but it is how I found territory and how I made the first step. But I started my career in technology consulting, and I was with Deloitte Consulting for 6 years doing technology integration in large-scale manufacturing environments, heavy on finance and supply chain. So I am someone who loves complexity, and I love systems, and really saying, if you're going to have complexity in your supply chain and you're going to have complexity in your operation systems, what is the value to your end customer? And I think even from a young time in my career, I really saw that as the thing I wanted to spend my time on. After about 6 years with Deloitte, I went over to Gap Inc., where I managed the 44 international supply chains that are not wholly owned by Gap. So these are franchise agreements and relationships, working with some of the best people in the entire world who know their markets, interesting markets like South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and saying, how does the Gap family of brands really show up for the Saudi customer? What does it need to look like? And then how do we make the product move around the world to get there on time for the max amount of selling? So a truly incredible organization to work with. Gap Inc. is one of the most values-driven companies out there with an incredible legacy. After about 3 years building those supply chains, product operations, I started to really touch the business development side of the house, and also started thinking very deeply about consumer economics and saying, how do we sell products at full price? How do we create something that people love? And how do we use these new and emerging direct-to-consumer relationships that are popping up all over the world and really facilitated by the Instagrams of the world to sell products? And a great example of companies like this is like Everlane, Bonobos, Rothy's, Warby Parker. These are companies that really changed the shape of retail by leveraging a direct-to-consumer relationship. I started to say, how do we do that with Gap? How do you do that at scale? How do you do it with larger organizations? So after leaving Gap, I shifted over to ZX Ventures, which is the venture capital and innovation arm of AB InBev, really working with them on how do you build direct-to-consumer relationships with the customer outside of the world of beer, knowing that beer is a highly regulated sale environment. Here in the United States, we have something called the three-tier system. It's very, very delicate. There's a lot of overhead in managing that. And what that overhead means is that the brand does not have a direct relationship with the customer. And so basically saying, how do we leverage these 350 incredible brands that AB InBev has spent, hundreds of years building? And how do we build a direct-to-consumer relationship? And what else do we sell them at in that environment? So I was at ZX Ventures for about 2 years. It's an incredible place to work, very, very fast moving, had grown the business really, really dramatically in those 2 years, but was on the road a lot. I was on the road 75% of the time. And what that means is my health had fallen apart. And I was really saying, what do I want to do? And where do I want to take my skills next? And so I was on a business trip in Australia and was surfing LinkedIn and found territory. So it's a really interesting kind of like meet cute. And I reached out to them and I said, to the recruiter, this company seems really interesting. I'd love to hear more. I gave her an overview of my skills, which at that point had really evolved from finance, supply chain operations to direct to consumer e-commerce, design thinking methodology, things like that, and rapid scaling. And she said, oh my gosh, you're one of us. Because when you believe in health and wellness and you believe that food is foundationally the thing that will change your long-term health, it's incredible when you meet other people that also believe that thing and you say, what can we build together? Because this is such a nascent part of the health and wellness journey. 5 years ago, if you said food is a critical input to health and wellness, 9 out of 10 doctors would have said, sure, if you're overweight, but otherwise just focus on like medication. That world has changed.
Yeah.
And that world has changed in the medical world, but it's also changed in the consumer world. And that's the exciting place that we're in. So I largely came to territory to change the narrative around food, change the narrative around how food can fit into your ultimate wellness, and build wellness in the everyday. So that it's not about some days I'm healthy and some days I'm not healthy. It's that you're constantly on a voyage to make yourself better, to improve your health and improve your life.
I think it's really interesting that you talk about, where you've come from Deloitte and Gap and ZX Ventures as someone who's really good at making connections, right? You said you deal with supply chains and systems. You're someone who's really good at making connections and also making connections stronger. And now you're talking about your work with Territory and the way that, you're building these relationships with different chefs and caterers and restaurants and the relationships that these businesses that make the food have with the customers. And so once again, you're making connections and you're making connections stronger, just in a way that's different than what you've been doing for years now.
Exactly. It's an ecosystem, right? These are all ecosystems and they all feed each other. And if we just try to solve for one part of the system, we will be disruptive to the other parts. But if we can consider all the different vectors and all the different parts of the system, or the value chain is what you'd call it in consulting, and say, how do we solve a consumer problem, but improve the value chain to get there, you can build something that's truly transformational, not just for your end customer, but for all the people that touch it along the way.
So it sounds like you're awfully busy on the reg.
Yes.
Do you have time for outside interests, any causes, charities that you find time for to support as well?
Absolutely. So similar to my thinking on ecosystems, outside interest in charities, I'd say for Territory, we are incredibly passionate about give back. And we have a whole program called Territory Serves that is an incredible way for our customers to donate alongside us at critical moments. So during the holidays, definitely, but then also at, critical cultural moments as well. And we do that in a couple of different ways. We also have meals that have a give back to Feeding America, which is a charity we've worked with for a really long time, or
Sure.
special interest groups. So it's really woven into the fabric of Territory to be connected to different organizations throughout the world of nonprofits and charities, just to continue to give back to that local economy in different ways. For me personally, I really view my time as obviously valuable. I'm also a new mom, which is like a whole other thing about time stretching. But I try to give back in a couple different ways. I love to mentor young businesses. I love to find founders that are having trouble and need that extra just set of hands from somebody who knows, to help them step back and say, okay, you're trying to raise Series A capital. This is how you should think about it, because this is what the investors are going to ask you. When I was out raising Series A and then eventually Series B for Territory, nobody really filled those things in for me. And so for me, it's really valuable to be able to find companies that I believe in with founders who have challenges and work with them and help them build something even bigger and better. And then the last thing I focus on is really how can I personally impact the world of the culinary economy. I'm obviously very passionate about it. My parents were small business owners, and I see the small business benefit of a community. When you have a layer of small businesses that are vibrant, they contribute so much to your local economy, and they provide so much social stability and so much social movement that I think as the world has moved online, we forget about that a little bit. So for me, I'm so passionate about building that up, and sit on the local board of an incredible nonprofit called CCAP, which is all about building local culinary talent as well, and creating that pipeline of talent that comes through, learns how to be a chef, and then goes out and works in the restaurant industry.
Just in the same way that you're having people who are, ingesting food that's healthier for them and better for them and grown locally and shipped close, you're also that's an investment in like a baseline level of input. And now you're also talking about in terms of training future chefs and people that are looking to up and coming, even small businesses. That's another level of baseline investment that's going to make an exponential difference as time goes on.
There's nothing better than helping a small business that is trying to scale, because you're creating so much value in the marketplace, but you're creating so much value for that person. You're creating so much value in the network of people they touch as well. So I always allocate a portion of my time to that. I would say every week. It does make me quite busy for sure, but it's time well spent.
So, we're into the new year, and as time is coming on, is there anything that you're comfortable maybe teasing out or letting people know about that's going to be coming to Territory, or, some new offers, different ideas in the coming months?
Absolutely. Territory is on a tear, is what I would say. So we're serving even more communities. You should check out if we're serving you. So www.territoryfoods.com. We're rapidly expanding. We're reaching 38 states right now, which is really exciting. We'll be fully national by the end of Q1 of 2022. bringing healthy, delicious food made locally across the United States. So huge there. And then we are also just bringing more specialized programs to our customer segment, helping them through those really hard times when they need support. And yes, they need fresh, delicious, healthy food, but they also need someone to help them understand those moments. There's some great moments. I talked about being a new mom. That's something that's very, very intimate to me, but there are other moments of transitional health that we can really provide that expertise. So you can look for that. And then on the culinary side of the house, we are actively bringing on a very large chef network. So we're always excited to meet chefs, restaurants, caterers, anybody who's interested in this space and talk to them about the model, because we see so many dynamic, different ways of serving the customer and lots of value and talent out there. So we are always bringing on more chefs, and I encourage everyone to go to territoryfoods.com and apply if you're interested. It's a really powerful business model to be a part of. We've built a really great community, and you'll be seeing a lot more of us in 2022.
You guys are on a tear.
We're on a tear. Absolutely.
Ellis McCue, Territory Foods, thank you very much for coming on CEOs You Should Know.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks very much. I'm Jack Crumley. This has been CEOs You Should Know.